So why was it ironic that Thomas Jefferson would write the Declaration of Independence? Well, some of you may know, right, that he owned slaves, maybe 160 slaves over his life. So it's sort of ironic that the person who writes all men created equal owned slaves. But there is something that makes it extra ironic that Thomas Jefferson wrote these words. And that is because of Sally Hemings. Thomas Jefferson loses his wife in childbirth. And so the daughter survives, but his wife dies. He's very distraught about this and very mournful. And one day, not long after his wife has died, he's walking around on his plantation in Virginia. And he lays his eyes on Sally Hemings. By most accounts, she's a beautiful woman. Now, it's a little creepy here because Thomas Jefferson at the time is 40. And Sally Hemings is 16. So it's a little borderline, right? But in Jefferson's defense, that's what a lot of men did. They married young women because the name of the game was to have a lot of kids. That was what was important here in 1760s America. Sally Hemings is a slave girl. So whether she fell in love with Jefferson, you know, it's hard to say, but a relationship begins. Soon thereafter, Jefferson moves to Paris. He becomes the American ambassador in France. And Sally Hemings moves with him. And in France, they sort of live openly because, you know, the French, they don't really care, right? But then after 4 years or so, they're getting ready to move back to America. And of course, in the United States, impossible. The idea of Thomas Jefferson and a black slave, impossible. And so when they move to the United States, they need to keep this relationship very secret. In fact, when Thomas Jefferson moves back, he builds his house in sort of two parts. One part is a public area where he receives guests and entertains and all of that. And one part is a private area where he keeps his own business. And of course, there is a door here. And this is where Sally Hemings goes in and hangs out. Now, there were rumors of this affair during Jefferson's time. And when he runs for president in 1800, there are some newspaper who writes, "Don't vote for Jefferson because he's having a relationship with a black woman." And in really, really, really nasty newspapers or pamphlets, you would write, "Don't vote for Jefferson because he has children with a black woman." And that was so shocking that, you know, you couldn't even say it. And throughout the 1800s and into 1900s, there were books written about Jefferson. And these books would say, well, there were rumors at the time about him and some slave girl. Obviously, that couldn't be true, these books would say. Obviously, Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence, third president of the United States, the founder of the University of Virginia, obviously he couldn't have a relationship with a black woman or children with a black woman. Yet today, I can tell you that he had 4 children with Sally Hemings. How can I with such certainty say that? Because I'm one of them. No, that wasn't true. That wasn't true. I can say that because I think in '89 or something, someone decided to test DNA. And as I told you, right, the daughter of Jefferson survived. So there is this straight Jefferson line. And the children of Sally Hemings survived. And so there is that straight Sally Hemings line. And in '89, they took the DNA test, and it was one of those 99.99, you are Tommy's kids. And thus it was proven that you had this relationship. There's so much stuff. There's so many layers to this story. You think Michelle Obama is America's first African-American first lady? Meet Sally Hemings. The president's only son is with Sally Hemings. And you also have to understand that children born to a slave girl or a slave woman are born as slaves. That means that Thomas Jefferson's children are born as slaves. Wrap your mind around that. I'm going to say one more thing, and that is that when Sally Hemings is in Paris and Thomas Jefferson tells her that we're going to move back to the United States, Sally Hemings says, well, hold on a second. She's smart enough to realize that in France there are no slaves. And she's thinking, maybe I should stay in Paris. She tells Thomas Jefferson this, and Thomas Jefferson is outraged. What do you mean stay in Paris? You have to come back to America with me. And Sally Hemings says, all right, I will, but I have one condition. And that is that when my children, your children, become 18, you will set them free. So here you have a slave girl negotiating with the third president of the United States. And Thomas Jefferson agrees. And indeed, when Sally Hemings' children turn 18, they are set free. And Jefferson sort of recognized them. He gives them little intimate objects. I think he gives to his son his comb, and another child get his glasses. The reason he can't do more is by the time he dies, he's broke. He's flat broke, and he doesn't have any money. Anyway, it's a big story, but if you understand the Sally Hemings and Thomas Jefferson, you understand a lot about America and what was to be, what was to come. Thank you.